And now we have the boss. Once again, I remember this boss being a little cheap, so we'll have to see how it goes. By the way, you might notice that this game gives you a ton of rings. There is actually a trophy, an achievement, depending on which console you're playing, of actually beating every boss with Supersonic. So once again, we have Eggman in his Eggmobile, except he has a new trick up his sleeve, and I feel like this boss is cool, but again, it's just one that I recall being a little bit frustrating. We'll have to wait and see how I feel by the end of this. Conceptually, a giant robot made out of scrap is fascinating. So basically what we have to do is watch the arrows and basically climb up various debris to get closer to Eggman, like so. Actually, can we just fly? Yeah, we can just fly up here, like so. If anything, I almost feel like this is Dimps, after all. This game kind of suffers from the same problem as Sonic Rush, where the bosses just kind of boil down to a lot of waiting around for a chance to attack. And it's not necessarily the most exciting fight, just kind of waiting for the boss's opening to be revealed. But again, this being by Dimps, once again, it does make sense why there are some design sensibilities in common between a game like this and the Rush games. Though again, I do feel like the Rush games do gain points on originality, at the very least. I am very quickly running out of ground. I'm getting a little bit nervous, actually. Like, I don't know how death planes work in this fight, so I don't really want to find out. So I'm gonna hopefully dodge a lot of the debris and fly up and deal more damage, like so. We actually don't even have to wait for him to attack. I thought it was a case of you have to wait till he gets close enough, but that's actually not the case. I wonder if you can actually get 2 hits if you're fast enough, which we are not at the moment, but in theory, I do question if that's possible. Again, conceptually a very nifty boss fight, just I wish you didn't have to sit around so long for an opening. And this is kind of like with the plant boss at the beginning. A lot of the bosses in these games do have names, but to tell the truth, I actually don't know what they are. Hey, remember what I said about death planes? Yeah, I guess we found out that the death plane is very shallow in this fight, so I don't like this fight. I have made this decision. Okay, so my general take so far, revisiting this game, is the level design is actually not bad. It's just the bosses are all kind of not great. Because one, they're very long, and have so many phases, and you have to restart from the beginning. In addition, they all have some cheap element that's hard to predict, and will probably get you killed at least once. So like here, the ticket is to not break any of the boxes because you need as much ground to stand on as possible, but there's so much happening with this fight that it's kind of hard to avoid. Like, I almost feel like the arrows are definitely distinct enough to actually avoid them, but I almost feel like something about this makes it really hard to see, and I'm not quite sure what it is, but yeah, legibility, again, is a Sonic problem in the series. I'm not sure if you can get 2 hits there. I tried, and the lock-on did not appear, so I assume you're capped in 1 hit there. Which is a bummer. Being able to speed this up would be lovely, actually. I do feel like you also have to attack from above, like trying to jump from below doesn't actually work. It doesn't entirely make sense to me just because it does feel like Eggman's on a separate visual plane from Sonic, so again, this is a case of foreground, background readability, where I feel like it's not necessarily intuitive of attacking Eggman, because the lock-on only appears if you're above him, and it's also just kind of like hard to tell if you'll actually hit him because he seems like he's so far away from you. So yeah. We're probably getting close to the big sweep move he did. I think he also hit a bomb block too, which also dealt damage, but I'm not entirely sure what happened there, like right before we died, basically. I couldn't tell if he got damaged because we attacked him or something, or if he just hit a block that dealt damage, like the little time bomb there. So I'm actually going to wait and see what happens here, like so, or maybe it just goes off. like so. Maybe you can lure him into actually hitting it. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do. Luckily, it didn't take out any of the surrounding blocks, so that's good at least. So let's try this again. Try to kind of bait him into attacking one of these, and see if that actually deals damage. We don't have enough time, so we have to abandon ship there, and just deal damage the old-fashioned way. I also feel like in the older games, Sonic bosses would always take about 8 hits, and then starting with some of the more recent games, it feels a lot more like inconsistent how much damage enemies take, to the point of a lot of times you can't really predict how far into the fight you are. Like, you do have pinch phases, and sometimes it's really hard to gauge, like, are we almost about to hit that or not? Eggman is climbing off the screen, and I'm trying to see if debris is still falling at this point, or if we're good to go. We also can't jump any higher than this, so I hope we're good. I guess we have to fly up here. It is giving us a tutorial for the rolling combo, so obviously that's what we have to do here. When he jumps over, I assume we're gonna have to roll into him. We just have to make sure to time it properly. He's trying to fake us out a little bit here. That's bad. So yeah, I walked into the combo, and because you dash forward, I literally didn't have any time to course correct. So that is very unfortunate. And yeah, the worst part is we have to do this whole thing over again, and that is definitely my biggest issue so far with these boss fights. Again, this looks cool. Conceptually, it is cool. It's also kind of a pain. So yeah, that to me is probably my least favorite thing about this game. I do remember the final boss being kind of neat, like conceptually also, but also having some annoying stuff, but not like an insta-kill, unlike the Death Egg Robot Mark whatever. I don't even know what Death Egg Robot he's up to at this point. He has so many. And like the Death Egg too. It's like, how many Death Eggs are we up to? If you treat every Sonic game as canon, like the one in Forces has to be like Death Egg 4 or something, I'm pretty sure. Because he's built so many of these things. Yeah, it's like a very unique take on a Death Egg Robot. Like, this is cool. Like, the aesthetic of it, kind of like almost a sort of steampunk Death Egg Robot. It's neat. I just wish it wasn't so tedious. And I keep saying this, but like the boss isn't even that long. Like, it doesn't take that long, but just it feels like it takes forever because you can't attack consistently. And again, you're kind of just at the mercy of a lot of different elements panning out in your favor, which is also annoying. Sonic Rush was really bad for this, where you basically just have to dodge attacks for a really long amount of time and hope for the best, essentially. I'm waiting for an opening, so I'm actually not paying enough attention to the arrows, which is going to cause problems if we don't have enough land to actually fight Eggman on. I've settled on calling him Eggman for the duration of this playthrough, because the game actually calls him Eggman in this, which is kind of interesting. Oh, that's a spike block. That's not great. We also have no rings now, so let's get some rings, hopefully dodging the next set of blocks. And we should be okay now. Also, I didn't mention it earlier, but I like how Metal Sonic uses the Sonic Adventure sound effects, like for the multiplayer, for his various movements. It's very interesting, actually. Again, because this is being recorded out of order, I actually might talk about it during the Metal Sonic, or episode Metal video, so if I said it already, then that's just to make sure I made that point. I do like the adventure games a lot, and again, I almost feel like if this had been billed as like an adventure 2D, I don't know how you'd actually convey that in marketing, but like if you basically treated it as such, I feel like people would have been way nicer towards this game. Kind of like Advance, where if you just go in expecting this to just be Sonic Advance, or Sonic Adventure aesthetics, but in a 2D plane, yeah, I think people would have been happier with this game. People wouldn't have found it as odd and off-putting trying to put out a classic Sonic game with modern sensibilities. I also felt like the homing attack isn't inherently a bad idea. Okay, so I've learned my lesson. Eggman's facing left previously, so we actually want to stand over here to make sure the weak spot will actually face us. So one more jump, I think. There we go. and this might be enough to finish the fight. I actually don't know. So yeah, that looks like it. Maybe, if I can land that hit, there we go. And after a little bit of struggle, we finally made it through Oil Desert. Again, cool concept, cool visuals, but man, that fight's kind of a chore, to be honest. Though I don't remember the next zone being much better in that regard, so we'll see how this goes. In this act, you'll take to the sky aboard Tails' Tornado. Use the left control stick or the D-pad to move. You can still use the spin jump and homing attack too. When standing on the tornado, press X to use the tornado boost to break through obstacles. You'll be hearing this again whenever I get to it. But I really wish retro throwback Sonic games would stop doing Sky Chase throwbacks. As someone who likes this game a lot, I definitely don't really care for Sky Chase just because, you know, in some ways I don't mind it in the context of Sonic 2. It makes sense to have a wind-down act because you just suffered through Metropolis, to be blunt, but I feel like a lot of times nowadays it doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, we did struggle with Oil Desert quite a bit, but having like a wind-down act almost feels less necessary. It's almost like a deliberate filler arc in Sonic 2 to give you a chance to breathe after, yeah, suffering through all of Metropolis. We have this little airship in the background. To tell the truth, I don't remember what we're supposed to do. I'm pretty sure there's a way to fight it, but I don't remember how. So we're now speeding up a bit. We have a bunch of rings indicating where we have to go, so we don't crash. That was very close because this is essentially an auto-scroller. There's the ship again. Again, I'm pretty sure there's actually an achievement for breaking it too. I want to say it's just as simple as like deflecting projectiles back at it or something, but I honestly don't remember. I will say the song is okay. Of the Sonic 2 or Sonic 4 Episode 2 soundtrack, this is probably one of the less bad songs in my opinion. Again, some of the music is fine, it's just a lot of it feels a little bit grating because, yeah, trying too hard to recapture that Genesis synth. So now what's happening? We have projectiles from the main carrier, but it doesn't look like we can do anything about it. We just have to kind of sit tight for now. I do feel like this serves a different role than Sky Chase original. Sky Fortress definitely is designed more like an actual zone with actual challenge rather than, yeah, just kind of a chill wind-down act, a breather act of sorts. And now we have missiles to dodge. There goes that red ring. Again, we're not really going after those, but still, we've missed so many. That feels very scary because it basically walks you to the edge of the screen, which isn't a good feeling in an auto-scroller. I've been charging a little bit early. I'm also hoping that the charge doesn't wear off at the very end and I get crushed anyway. And back to normal speed. This does have checkpoints, which in that way it feels a little bit better than Sky Chase. What do we do here? Like, do we just leave the tornado? I guess we do. I hope that's right. Yeah, that is intended. Okay. Sometimes, again, I don't have much faith in dimps, so I hesitate. Like, is that what they're asking of me? I feel this way again as we have these platforms, and I'm really hoping we don't accidentally, like, soft block something and end up in a situation where we literally can't proceed. Again, I feel like that's unlikely, but again, I don't have a ton of faith. And again, it's partly just because I don't play this game very often, to the point where I don't know all the quirks of like how the set pieces are set up. But again, it is actually nice, in my opinion, having set pieces. It's kind of cool. Can we? Yeah, we can actually pull a Sonic Forces. Again, retroactively, given that this game was like 5 years early. But yeah, we basically can actually break this carrier by deflecting everything back. I want to say there's some condition where if you break the ship, you actually end the act early, but I'm pretty sure you can also just survive, in theory. But again, I'm not an expert of Sonic 4, either Part 1 or Part 2, so take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, I want to say there was some kind of gimmick like that, where you can end the stage early if you actually take it out in time. Which we might as well try to do, because we're here. Oh, that's bad. Do not forget the plane, Sonic. It's very basic, but it is kind of nifty having a set piece like that. Again, very much clearly inspired by Sky Chase, but still finding ways to spice things up a little bit. I'm also trying to think about this design of the tornado. This might seem really, like, specific, but I do feel like this is the tornado from Sonic 2, because some of them actually, I think, have red wings. Like, the adventure design is, like, all red, I'm pretty sure, with some yellow. Well, this actually does harken back more to the Sonic 2 design with the silver wings instead. Again, that's a very nerdy detail to notice, but that is something I was just thinking about. But again, I want to say this does time out eventually on its own, but again, you can end the stage early, and I want to say there's a trophy for it too, if you manage to pull it off. And there he goes! So in theory, that should be the end of the act. As you might expect, given that the first act is inspired by Sky Chase, the second act is inspired by Wing Fortress, so hence the name Sky Fortress. I keep saying this, and I kind of feel bad that I keep saying this, but I don't have the best memories of this level. I feel like there's something really cheap, like a flight section through mines or something really annoying, but I feel like I have a very distinct memory of that. For some reason, I feel like I remember this song, but I don't remember it being for this act. It's really odd. Like, I feel like I remember this being in a different place in this game. So we have these little fans that'll push us up here. To be fair, as someone who's not a big fan of Wing Fortress either, I don't know if this is better or worse, to be honest. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I remember, like, a long time ago, playing Sonic 2, and trying to beat the game without save states, and I think I caved at Wing Fortress because it was literally taking hours. So yeah, I just ended up giving up because I just didn't have the patience for it. So yeah. I love Sonic 2, it is my favorite of the classic Sonic games, but man, that game can be rough sometimes. It definitely feels like an unfinished game, which it is, so... Again, I don't fault the game for that, and I definitely feel like, you know, me knowing why this game is as scuffed as it is makes me feel a little bit more warmly about it, even though it is definitely rough with Metropolis and Sky Chase and Wing Fortress and the Death Egg robot without any rings. But still, I do feel like knowing that the game was horribly rushed does make it a little bit more forgivable. Though again, I fully concede that Sonic and Knuckles and Sonic 3 and Knuckles specifically and Sonic Mania are both better games than 2. I just have a soft spot for Sonic 2 specifically. That was really unfortunate. The invincibility ran out right when we were passing by those jets there. Hey look, we're actually using the spin dash for a change instead of using the rolling move, just because the setup for it would have taken too long. I don't remember what these chicken enemies are called, but I do remember them from Wing Fortress. I swear there are so many times where I second-guess myself on if I've said the right level name or not. It's kind of a bummer, actually, because Sonic, for Episode 2, starts strong in terms of being, less obvious in terms of its inspirations. But then by this act, and Oil Desert too, to be blunt, it's just so obvious, and it kind of feels like the unique aesthetics kind of ran out of steam, so we ended up with stuff like this instead. I am not entirely sure what to do here, so I'm gonna try flying. That seems to be correct, but we have to time it. At the very least, these jet engines stay offline for a while, so we should have enough time to fly up here, like so, and continue onwards. Again, this is actually a fairly okay act so far. Again, I don't want to speak too soon on this, because then we'll get to the part that I remember hating, and then I'll have to change my tune on how I feel about this. There's another ring that we missed. Again, the red rings don't even do anything, so I'm not really worried. I am pretty sure it's this act that has a section that's really frustrating, so we'll have to see how it goes. I do like the sunset background. I have talked about this on numerous occasions in videos, but I actually really like sunset aesthetics in video games. I think they're really pretty, actually. We have a cannon, so that's cool. And it's kind of like the Death Egg transit system in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, actually, with the little ring trails that'll like warp you to different areas. Again, while not directly taking as much compared to the first game with 1 and 2, I do feel like Episode 2 does draw a lot from 3 more implicitly, which is, again, kind of nice that's less overt, but you can still definitely recognize some moments that definitely feel inspired by Sonic 3 and Knuckles. If a Part 3 had ever been made, I do wonder how much it would have drawn from that. I'll talk about this during the credits, probably, but it's kind of fascinating because of the post-credit scene for getting all the emeralds in the first game, setting up Metal Sonic for Part 2, but you don't really get that with Part 2, or Episode 2. Like, there's not really a setup for getting all the emeralds, or getting all the red rings or anything. The ending is just the same as the bad ending, essentially. I was not anticipating that moving, and that was almost very disastrous. Did I soft-lock this? I feel like I might have soft-locked this, and that's why. No wonder it's not working. I don't know why I'm pressing Y. Yeah, it would help if I pushed X, because that is actually the button to control Tails. I'm also trying to be very careful, because I don't want to die here. I'm falling into the pit. I am barely overshooting this platform, like, every time. This is definitely something taken from the classic games I'm not a big fan of. Metropolis is the best example of this. When you have a set piece that doesn't respawn right away, so you have to off-screen it in order to get it to reset. So for example, if one of the little starfish robots hit you as you're running on a cog, or a gear, actually I think it's a bolt, technically, but you can't actually get it to reset unless you basically off-screen it, which in Metropolis is not easy, because you have to go through all the crab and slicer, all the crab enemies and the slicers, so yeah, actually trying to off-screen one of the little bolts is just very annoying. Yeah, it's definitely one of my biggest issues with classic Sonic games, is like, if there's a fixed sequence that you end up accidentally setting up in such a way that you have to reset it, but there's no easy way to actually reset it. So we missed out on the top half, sadly. A lot of Sonic games do that, and I'm not really a fan of when there's like a spring that'll send you on the lower path, because a lot of times, especially on the first playthrough, there's no way to predict that. You just have to kind of wing it, and then on later playthroughs, you'll know it's there, and that's kind of the point of a lot of Sonic games, is a sense of replay value, in that you have incentive to explore all the different paths. I think this might be part of the section I was thinking about being annoying, a flight section specifically. So we'll have to see how this goes, because again, running straight into the flames right away was not getting us off to the best possible start there. I feel like with flight specifically, it's harder to adjust altitude compared to like swimming, where you do have more directional control, while with the flight, you basically just have to ascend and then wait to descend, so it ends up being a little bit less convenient. I really hope we're getting close to the end of this act, to be honest, just because so far it's actually not going too badly, I was going to say. So flight it is, and we'll see what's up here. This is scary. We somehow survived that. Again, there are a lot of very interesting platform choices in Sonic 4 in general. I pressed Y again, that would have been really bad. I don't know why I keep pressing Y. Like, I genuinely have no idea, because, like, I can't think of another Sonic game that mapped... Oh, it's Generations, that's it. Because of the friend missions in Generations, you press Y to activate their powers. And I keep thinking of Tails' friend power in Generations, which is Y. So that would explain it. But I'll probably continue to press the wrong button by accident, so we'll have to see how this goes. There were signs there, but I didn't really get a chance to read them, so I hope it's flight for this, otherwise we might have a problem. I'm gonna go back. I want to double check here. Never mind, we can't go back. Do we fly up? Do we fall and then hover over the pit? Again, this is just a problem with this level design, where, oh, we're supposed to roll, I guess, so we'll see what happens here. Let's hope the signs aren't lying to us, and we actually go where we need to go. Yep, that is what we are supposed to do.